she scoffed. Are you keeping a record of my schedule now? Pathetic. When I inquired about her late nights with a coworker, I responded, good idea. My lawyer later presented the record of her hotel charges and Uber rides to her lover's house during our divorce proceedings. The conversation that ended my 12-year marriage took place on a Wednesday night, close to midnight. I was in the living room engrossed in a book when my wife, Lisa, finally returned home. The aroma of wine and restaurant food trailed behind her. This was the third time that week she had stayed late at the office. For months, something had felt off, not in an explosive manner, but in a quiet, unsettling way. The warmth had drained from our interactions, replaced by a polite, formal distance. She was glued to her phone, always angling it away from me. Her work life, once a shared topic, became a vague, off-limits territory. The late nights kept piling up, each one blamed on a significant project and always involving the same coworker, a director from another department named Greg. I'm not a jealous person. I've always believed in trust. But trust is built through actions, and her actions were creating a knot of suspicion in my stomach that I couldn't ignore. I decided to talk to her, not with accusations, but with concern. Lisa, I began, putting my book down as she dropped her keys into the bowl by the door. These late nights are becoming excessive. We hardly see each other anymore. Is everything all right at work? She didn't even glance at me. She just sighed dramatically. It's a huge project, David. I've told you this. It's just what's needed right now. I understand, I replied, keeping my tone steady. It just seems like a lot of time with Greg. I'm starting to feel like a stranger in my own home. That's when she turned to me. There was no sympathy in her eyes, only a flash of pure contempt. She laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. Oh my God, she said, shaking her head in disbelief. Are you keeping a spreadsheet of my schedule now? Is that what this has come to? That's pathetic. The word hung in the air between us, pathetic. It wasn't just a denial, it was an attack on my character. It was meant to belittle me, to make me feel small and foolish for questioning her. In that moment, looking at the scorn on her face, I realized the woman I married was gone. The marriage I was trying to salvage was already dead. I was just the last to realize it. Any remaining love inside me died right there in that cold, silent room. Something inside me fell silent. The hurt was present, but it was quickly being buried under a layer of ice. I looked at her, my expression completely blank. A spreadsheet, I repeated softly. That's a good idea. I stood up, walked past her without another word, and shut myself in our bedroom. She probably thought she had won, that she had successfully shamed me into silence. Little did she know what she had just set in motion. She had given me a new mission. The goal was no longer to fix my marriage. It was to survive its end with my dignity and finances intact. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I made my first call. I found the name of the top-rated divorce lawyer in my city, a man named Mr. Davies, known for his meticulous, no-nonsense approach. I scheduled a consultation for the next day. I didn't tell him I wanted a divorce. I informed him I was getting one and needed to understand the landscape. At his office, I laid out the situation. The emotional distance, the constant late nights with one specific person, and her contemptuous denial. I explained the spreadsheet comment. He listened patiently, taking notes. In this situation, he explained, infidelity can have a significant impact, especially regarding the division of assets and alimony. If you can prove that marital funds were used to facilitate an affair, what we call dissipation of assets, a judge can award a larger portion of the estate to you as compensation. But you need proof. Hard, undeniable proof. Suspicions won't hold up in court. What kind of proof? I asked. Receipts, photographs, travel records, witness testimony, he said. A clear pattern of behavior supported by documentation. It has to be airtight. I nodded slowly. A spreadsheet. A detailed, documented, airtight spreadsheet. Okay, I said. I can do that. I paid his retainer and left his office with a clear set of instructions. Lisa wanted me to feel pathetic? I was about to show her what being methodical looked like. Update 1. For the next 3 months, I led a double life. On the outside, I was the quiet, defeated husband. I stopped asking where Lisa was going. I didn't question her late nights. I became polite and emotionally distant, mirroring her own behavior. To her, it must have seemed like her tactic had worked perfectly. She thought she had put me in my place. Her confidence swelled, and with it, her carelessness. This was exactly what I was counting on. On the inside, I was an intelligence analyst, and my marriage was the subject of my investigation. The first step was finances. I had full access to our joint accounts and credit cards online. Every night after she went to bed, I would retreat to my home office, close the door, and begin my work. I created a secure password-protected file on my computer, naming it the Spreadsheet Project. I started by combing through months of credit card statements. The pattern emerged almost immediately. On nights she claimed to be stuck at the office, charges appeared that made no sense. There were Uber rides, not from her office to our home, but to a residential address in a completely different part of town. A quick search revealed the address belonged to one Gregory Preston, her co-worker. There were restaurant bills from upscale places on Tuesday nights for amounts indicating a dinner for two. There were bar tabs from hotel lounges near her office. There was even a receipt from a high-end lingerie store for items I had never seen. Each transaction became a data point. I logged every single one into my spreadsheet, date, time, vendor, amount, and a notes column detailing the discrepancies. But digital receipts weren't enough. I needed more. Following Mr. Davies' advice, I hired a private investigator. He was a retired police detective, a quiet older man who exuded competence. I provided him with all the information I had gathered: Greg's name, his address, and the times and dates of the suspicious Uber rides. I authorized a 2-week surveillance period, focusing only on her movements when she was supposed to be working late. Living in the same house during this time was the hardest part. I had to act normal while my world was being systematically dismantled. I had to make small talk about her day, knowing she was lying. I had to sleep next to her, aware that she had likely just come from being with him. It took every ounce of self-control not to confront her, to throw the evidence in her face. But my lawyer's voice echoed in my mind. Do not engage. Do not reveal what you know. Let her build your case for you. The investigator's first report arrived via secure email. It was concise, professional, and devastating. He had followed her from her office on a Thursday night. She didn't go to a work dinner. She went directly to a downtown hotel, the same one where I'd seen bar tabs on our statements. 15 minutes later, Greg's car pulled into the hotel parking garage. The investigator had photographic evidence. Lisa and Greg meeting in the lobby, getting into the elevator together. They didn't emerge until after 1 a.m. The report included a crucial new detail. The PI had run Greg's license plate. He was married. This wasn't just an affair. It was a conspiracy between two cheating spouses. Over the next 2 weeks, the evidence mounted. More hotel visits, dinners, a weekend afternoon spent at Greg's house while his wife was supposedly out of town. The PI was thorough, providing photos, videos, and detailed logs of her movements. He also uncovered that she had used our joint savings, the money we were saving for a new roof, to buy Greg a luxury watch for his birthday. That wasn't just infidelity, it was theft. It was the dissipation of assets Mr. Davies had described in glaring, undeniable detail. By the end of 3 months, my spreadsheet was no longer just a spreadsheet. It had become a comprehensive dossier of deception. It contained financial records, timelines, photographs, video files, and the PI's sworn affidavit. It was a cold, hard factual account of her secret life. My work was done. It was time to let the lawyers take over. Update 2. The day I chose to act was a Monday. I waited for Lisa to leave for work. Then I made my move. I had already leased a furnished apartment in another part of the city, and my personal belongings were packed. A moving company I had hired weeks in advance arrived and cleared out my things in under 2 hours. The last thing I did was place my house key on the clean kitchen counter. For my new apartment, I called Mr. Davies. "I'm out," I said. "It's done. File the papers." The divorce petition was filed that afternoon. 2 days later, a process server walked into Lisa's office and delivered the papers in the middle of her workday. Her call came an hour later. She was screaming, "You filed for divorce. You just left. How could you do this? You're going to destroy my life. You're going to ruin my reputation." It was a masterful performance of victimhood. No apology, no remorse, just pure indignant rage that her comfortable double life had been interrupted. I let her scream until she ran out of breath. Then I replied, my voice as calm as a frozen lake. "Lisa, I am following the legal process. Any future communication from you needs to be directed to my lawyer, Mr. Davies. His contact information is in the papers you received." "I am not talking to a lawyer. I am talking to my husband," she shrieked. "No," I corrected her gently. "You are speaking to the man you lied to and stole from for months. The husband is gone. Goodbye. I hung up and blocked her number. The next step was the initial four-way meeting with our respective lawyers. Lisa had hired an aggressive attorney who came out swinging. She sat across from me, her face a mask of defiant innocence. Her lawyer laid out their demands. Half of all assets, including my retirement accounts, permanent spousal support, and for me to pay her legal fees. She painted herself as the wronged wife, abandoned by a paranoid, unstable husband. She denied everything. The late nights were work. Greg was just a friend, a mentor. The financial discrepancies were misunderstandings. The hotel charges were for work events. Lie after lie was delivered with a straight face. After they finished their presentation, Mr. Davies leaned forward. He didn't raise his voice. He spoke in a quiet, measured tone. "Thank you for that creative piece of fiction," he said to Lisa's lawyer. "Now let's talk about reality." He looked at Lisa. "My client is not paranoid. He is, however, extremely thorough. For the past 3 months, he has been compiling a document that details a pattern of behavior that goes far beyond a simple friendship. He has financial statements, travel logs, and extensive evidence from a licensed private investigator." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a single piece of paper. It was a copy of a hotel folio. He slid it across the table. "This is from the Hotel Victoria, dated 3 weeks ago. A room booked and paid for with your joint credit card. Do you recognize it, Mrs. Miller?" Lisa glanced at it, and for the first time, a flicker of panic appeared in her eyes. "And this," Mr. Davies continued, placing a photograph on top of the receipt, "is a crystal-clear shot taken by the PI of you and Greg kissing in the hotel parking garage before getting into his car. I assume this was part of the big project you were working on." Lisa went pale. Her lawyer snatched the photo, and his jaw tightened as he looked from the photo to his client. The bravado seemed to drain from him. "We have hours of surveillance footage and hundreds of pages of documentation just like this," Mr. Davies said quietly. "We have proof of infidelity and significant dissipation of marital assets, including a $5,000 watch purchased with funds from a joint savings account. Now, would you like to reconsider your initial demand, or would you prefer for us to present this spreadsheet in open court?" The room fell silent. Lisa stared at the photo on the table, her mask of innocence shattered. She had mocked me for being pathetic, but she had no idea that her own words had forged the weapon that would now dismantle her life. Final update: it has been 6 months since that meeting. I am now officially a divorced man. As it turns out, Lisa and her lawyer chose not to present the spreadsheet in open court. After that initial preview of the evidence, their entire strategy collapsed. Her lawyer, realizing he had been misled and was holding a losing hand, urged her to settle quickly. The depositions were a formality. My lawyer, Mr. Davies, was relentless, presenting a curated selection of the evidence piece by damning piece. The Uber receipts to Greg's house, the credit card statements for romantic dinners, the PI's photos from outside the hotels, the bank transfer for the luxury watch. Each piece of evidence was a nail in the coffin of her lies. Watching her squirm under questioning, forced to admit to one misunderstanding after another, was a grimly satisfying experience. She had built her world on a foundation of deceit, and now she was watching it crumble under the weight of simple, undeniable facts. The final divorce settlement was a testament to the power of documentation. It was nowhere near the 50-50 split she had initially demanded. The judge took the dissipation of assets very seriously. The thousands of dollars she had spent on her affair, the hotels, the dinners, the gifts, were calculated and deducted directly from her share of the marital estate. Her request for spousal support was entirely denied, with the judge citing her flagrant infidelity and financial misconduct. She walked away with a fraction of what she thought she was entitled to, left with her lies and their consequences. The aftermath was brutal for her. Greg's wife, it turned out, was not the forgiving type. I have no idea how she found out, but I received a letter from her lawyer a month after our divorce was finalized, requesting copies of certain pieces of evidence from my PI's report for use in her own divorce proceedings. Mr. Davies handled it. Greg's affair didn't just cost him his marriage. It cost him dearly in the divorce, and his career reportedly stalled due to the scandal within their company. Lisa's life was also upended. She couldn't afford our house and couldn't manage living on her own in the city. Last I heard, she had moved into a small apartment an hour away. She lost many friends who were appalled when the truth of her long-term calculated deceit came to light. As for me, I feel a sense of peace I haven't felt in years. The entire process was draining and unpleasant, but it was necessary. I didn't act out of anger or a desire for revenge. I acted from a need for self-preservation and justice. Her mockery was the catalyst. She called me pathetic for wanting to know the truth. She sarcastically suggested a spreadsheet, and in her arrogance, she handed me the very tool I needed to protect myself. I sold the house. It was filled with too many ghosts. I bought a smaller place for myself, and the quiet is comforting. The spreadsheet, that meticulous record of her betrayal, sits on a password-protected hard drive in my safe. I'll probably never look at it again. I don't need to. I won. Not by yelling or fighting, but by being calm, methodical, and thorough. I took her insult and turned it into my strategy. It was undoubtedly the best and most profitable idea she ever gave me.